Hello, Teresa Tree out here at our Global Family Farm, February 27th. And on the last video I talked about how important it is to put compost on your crops before you plant. And so I'm doing more of that today. Let me show you how and why. Okay, so here is a little patch of cabbage and lettuce, and I'm adding the compost. So what I did is just put it in buckets and then drop it onto the top of the soil. Now I'm going to smooth it out and plant some more lettuces in between the cabbages. Take a look and for a moment and see why. The soil that we're putting on compost is filled with organic matter, which is all the little pieces of wood, and it's also filled with life, which is the worms that are crawling around in the soil, and other microorganisms like fungus and bacteria and ants and arthropods like roly-polies, and that's all adding life to the soil. But you're also adding nutrients to the soil, and you're also improving the soil texture, the condition of the soil. There's a whole bunch of ants crawling around. I don't know if you can see them, but we're adding them to the soil by adding compost to the soil. And they also help aerate the soil. The worms, the roly-polies, even the ants are going to crawl around, and then they're going to add air pockets to the soil. Okay, I smoothed out the compost and putting the lettuces in place to plant. But I also wanted to mention a couple things. One, about the lettuces. This is one way to do succession planting. In other words, we had some lettuce in here. It already grew. We already harvested. Some are yet to be harvested. So in between, in the blank spots, we're putting more lettuces and some cabbages. And in between the crops, then you can grow the next succession of your crop to keep your harvest going and going and going. And then the other thing to note is that compost is also a mulch. Okay, so it's covering the soil. That means it's covering it from the sun and the wind and the heat and the cold, both. It acts like a blanket. This soil dries out. It's a heavy clay soil. It gets real crusty. And so then that helps keep it cool, keep it moist, keep it from cracking, and to just protect the soil. And then that helps provide a habitat for all the little critters to live in the soil. It's called the soil food web. So when I plant these transplants of lettuce that I grew in the greenhouse, I also put some compost in the soil and in the seeds trays. Now they got more compost. In other words, they have a nice nutrient-rich little habitat to live and survive and grow into, rather than being in some harsh conditions. All right, and we even have an added layer. We have these little blankets or row covers to keep them warm and to keep the insects out, to keep them protected. So just like people, plants need protection from the cold and the wind and the frost and the heat, and so that's what we do. We nurture the plants just like we nurture people. And so come join us. We're at our Global Family Farm. We're located at City Farm Slow, and we're in San Luis Obispo, the farm along the freeway, along Highway 101 at Los Osos Valley Road. We're here on Sundays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Bye, and take care and protect yourselves. And also think globally. Think about how we need to protect everybody's livelihood and sovereignty and right to live in their own home and apartment and in their own country. Okay, very important.